Greetings, listeners. Welcome to Thrice, a horror movie podcast brought to you by Sinister Siblings, where we review a horror movie not once, not twice, but thrice, to see what comes from repeat viewings and share our thoughts with our dear listeners. My name's Adam. Joining me are, let's start over this side today.
My name's Tracy.
Hello, Tracy. And
hello.
to my left.
My name's Mark. Hello.
Together, our powers combined, the Thrice Triangle. This episode, we're getting back to nature. We're touching grass. We're going for a walk in the bush or the woods. We're listening to the birds. We're going to walk and walk. We're going to walk some more. And just when you think we can't possibly walk anymore, we're going to walk some more.
Yes.
We're going to keep on walking because it's part 2 of In a Violent Nature.
Yes, we just said in nature. There you go.
No way. There you go.
Yes, so you're listening to episode 2, so you probably have a little bit of an idea how the show works. But just to let you know, the way reviews work is the first review we do is based off our own initial impressions of the first viewing, along with anything we've got from the trailer. Second time round, which is what we're doing now, will be what we've picked up second time round, informed by our first viewing as well as the conversations we've had. And then third viewing will be, based on the conversations we've had now, as well as any external input. So quite often we'll do that with some input from people involved with the film, or whether that's external reviews, or whether that's feedback and input from you guys, the listeners. Please beware, plenty spoilers abound. It's a bit hard to talk too much about the film without sort of letting you know what's going on. So please be aware there are spoilers.
Indeed.
Trace, would you like to tell us a little bit about In a Violent Nature?
Sure. So In a Violent Nature starts when a locket necklace is removed from a collapsed fire tower in the woods. This locket entombs the rotting corpse of Johnny, a vengeful spirit spurred on by a horrific 70-year-old crime. His body is resurrected and becomes hell-bent on retrieving the locket. So, what did you guys think of watching it second time? Did you like it more?
I wasn't bored.
You weren't bored?
No. Were you bored?
Well,
yeah.
we could play. Continue, Adam.
No, I'm just saying, I think you're inferring, yeah. Well, you roasted this movie the first time round, yeah.
I did.
So, I'm interested to hear where you're at.
Yes, interested indeed.
Okay. Well, I didn't mind it as much as I did the first time.
Okay.
So
what was the shift for you, do you think?
I was recovering from surgery and on painkilling medication.
I could empathise with people getting injured.
Yes. Yeah, I guess because I knew what to expect this time round. I knew it was going to be very slow and very ponderous. And so I wasn't quite as much sort of like, come on, get to the point here, just kill the people. I kind of knew what I was in for. So I kind of had, which is often the case, I think, when you go back for round 2, is you have that opportunity to look at things, in more depth. Basically, you can go, actually, I'm going to focus on this person's storyline, or I'm going to try and unpick the reasoning behind this particular element. So I think having that space gives you the opportunity to focus on something that you might find a little more interesting. So, yeah.
Did you find it was less walking than you remembered?
No.
More? It felt about the same amount of walking?
There was quite a great deal of walking. And also there's really, and it was a deliberate decision, but, spending oodles of silent time on a single inconsequential shot of just like maybe some leaves, and you're just watching these leaves in silence for like 2 minutes, and then we just move on to the next scene, and I was just like, oh my God.
So it was very much in that world of slow horror, I guess. And I did listen to some of the audio commentary on the Blu-ray, And the director talked about that deliberate choice to have it be very slow. He actually said very slow, almost a boring pace.
You hit it on the nail on the head.
It was quite funny with the commentary. There was a point where someone asked if the film had glitched because they were like, we just seem to be looking at the same image. He's like, no, it's a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
To achieve what? Like, I mean, I guess that's like an open question. Like, what do you think is the effect of that? Like,
well, done well, that slow horror stuff, I guess, is the slow burn. It creates tension.
But it didn't.
Well,
the only moments of tension in this film, and I actually made a note because they stood out. So the only moments of any real tension were at the beginning where he walks up to the farmhouse, and so he's following that nasty man around the farmhouse. There was a bit of tension there, actually, like, ooh, okay, we finally got some action. Where's this going? What's happening? And then at the end, where the final girl gets picked up by the woman in the car, that was great. There was tension there. But the rest of the film, it was literally, we're watching paint dry, but instead of paint, it's leaves on a tree. I'm watching the back of this dude's head.
See, and I find that, like, one thing that I got from this watch, well, it wasn't newness necessarily, because I remember thinking it the first time, but it reinforced it for me, is just, like, how funny this movie is in a way. Like it's sort of... It's a real... I know I said last time that it's like, it plays on the conventions of a slasher movie, which everyone understands. Whether you're a horror person or not, everyone kind of knows what happens in a slasher movie and how a slasher movie goes. But it's still... I really feel like this is a movie for fans. If you're not someone that enjoys slasher movies or is well across slashers, you're not going to really get what this movie's doing. And there's just some hilarious stuff in it. I've forgotten the scene where they've decided they're going to ambush him and they're whispering in the bushes and he can just hear everything that they're saying. I just found that so funny because that's what it would be like from the other side of the table. I mean, this whole movie is obviously a conventional slasher turned on itself, sort of turned inside out.
Literally in some cases.
Yeah.
I did like how following that scene that our final girl realises the whole plan's gone awry and just goes, nah.
Nope.
Not going to give that a go. Apparently the initial ending was actually going to have this big blaze and everything, but that didn't map out that way. Because the film was basically shot twice. So they actually did quite a bit of the shooting and they had a different Johnny and they sort of had to redo quite a lot of it. There's very, very little, I think, left in the film. They sort of, I think the producers and that looked at what and said, well, I think we can try some other things. And so it's interesting from that side of it. What I found interesting is because I suppose loosely you would describe it to people as a film that's shot from the killer's point of view. But when you actually watch it, there's a lot of it that's really not from the killer's point of view.
No.
So it's interesting. And it's not that the film's cheating, but I think it's just too easy to say that's how it is. They've just turned it around and we watch it through the killer's eyes because we really don't. There's actually quite a lot of scenes where we're seeing, oh, we're on the other side of the river or... Johnny's over there, or we're on the other side of the campfire and we can see Johnny over there. And like they make quite an effort to pretty much have Johnny in every scene. So it becomes a little bit of a Where's Wally type of situation where and I noticed that a bit more, you would actually see him in scenes that maybe I didn't notice first time round. So I thought that was really quite clever. But yeah, it's certainly not a POV type of film.
No, it's not. But you are with Johnny, though, effectively, Which I kind of was a question that I wanted to put to you guys about that. You're with Johnny. His backstory is that he was killed, in a horrific sort of accident, a mishap. They were playing a prank gone wrong, classic sort of slasher material. So you're with the killer sort of literally in terms of filming. As an audience member, do you sympathise with him? Like, do you empathise with his cause, his revenge, his quest to get his locket back?
Oh, come on board. Like, I think...
You said last time you hated the teens and you wanted them all to die.
Yeah, exactly.
So you are kind of with Johnny.
I can empathise. Like, if someone steals your stuff, you'd be like, you know what? Screw this.
But then I suppose in a way you're always kind of with the killer, aren't you? You're always kind of cheering on
Well, I think in...
Jason Voorhees.
Yeah, but so ever since the sort of 80s onset of having the killer being the main focus of the film, I guess.
Yeah, and a maligned character
being the anti-hero.
Yeah. I think, But also it made me wonder, actually. So with the locket, so somebody's popped that locket on the grave to keep him in there. Why wouldn't you just put it in the grave with him and therefore negate the need to, you know?
Maybe
Just
the magic
like
doesn't work that way.
Slip it down the pipe. Drop it down the pipe.
Yeah, I just sort of thought, if you just tucked the locket in there, we wouldn't have had this film.
Exactly. That's why it didn't happen.
Well, there might be a story to that.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which don't get too excited. There actually really isn't.
Okay.
But I'm leading across to what's sort of similar to that. So we were lucky enough to put some questions to the director. So Chris Nash took some time out of his busy schedule to talk with us, which is really, really great. So thank you, Nash, for doing that for us.
Thank you, Chris Nash.
Marvellous.
That's super, super awesome.
Alrighty, so I'm just going to read what we've got through here. So there's a little bit here, so bear with me. But we might sort of go through a little bit of this. So the first question that we put to him was, what scene or kill was the initial spark of the film? So where did it start from, and did that make it to the final cut? So Chris said, so the image that sparked the film was the image that you see through most of the movie, the camera fixed behind a slasher's back as they stalk through the woods. I've said in other interviews, my big inspiration for the film was Gus Van Sant's trilogy of Jerry, Elephant and Last Days, where this visual language is heavily used. As far as any kills that served as a catalyst to propel my thinking of how to shoot the film, it would have to be Evan's death. So he's the one that shoots Johnny outside the cabin. When I started thinking about how to shoot a movie that focused on the slasher, this scenario popped into my head where the camera stays focused on the slasher as they're chasing after the victim. Then we see the slasher throw an axe off screen, hear it make contact, and stay with the slasher as it walks alone across the woods till the aftermath of the axe throw is revealed. All the while making a deliberate point to let the walk breathe. Take in the sounds, let him move at his own pace to drive home the fact that we're living in his movie, and that being a slasher isn't exciting or even thrilling. It's purposeful. That moment ultimately became the 1-2 punch, ending with the bird's eye view of Troy's head crush. We said, we read in several interviews about your choices regarding the pacing of the film. We were curious about the decision process of when and how you decided to change gears and speed things up or slow things down. Was it something that was edited in camera as you went, or was it more in the editing room with Alex? So Johnny's actual pace was decided on the day. There were certain moments where we knew we wanted Johnny to be more determined, and during those times Rye Barrett, who played Johnny, would move with a tad bit more speed than his regular walk. So a good example being when Johnny wedges a log against the car horn and then walks around the cabin.
He did have a bit of pep in his step then.
As for the pace of the film itself, that was really something Alex and I arrived at in the editing room. When we arrived at the end of our first cut, I think the film was about 110 minutes. The both of us really loved to watch Johnny walk. It was almost a meditative exercise. When we were getting feedback on that cut, a filmmaker friend of mine, Albert Shen, was the first person to convincingly tell us our vision wouldn't suffer if we cut down on the majority of the walking. Not the amount of takes, but the length of the takes themselves. And once we started cutting apart the length of those shots, everything really started to click. Originally, I was very concerned that if we didn't let those shots breathe, we wouldn't be able to convey the sense of distance and the time that it takes Johnny to get places. But we learned that by keeping those shots shorter, in effect, letting the jump cuts hit harder, it actually made it seem like Johnny was walking further than if we actually showed him walking the full distance. Editing. Who knew? Is what he said.
Wow. So is there a director's cut where you can see like all the
walking cut?
Please no. Please no.
So the shifting of perspective from the victims to the killer feels like it moves the film from a straight horror to a sort of power fantasy at times. Do you feel that's a fair comment? Were you concerned that there could be negative criticism about making the viewer the antagonist? He goes, nah, that's a fair statement. It wasn't our intention, but I wouldn't begrudge anyone for interpreting the film as a kind of power fantasy. But honestly, we didn't really have much of a thesis going into the film. On the first day of filming, we told our crew, this isn't an experimental film, but this film is an experiment.
Yes.
We had no idea how it was going to make people feel, for good or ill. We had a loose set of rules on how we wanted to shoot the film, and we were curious to what kind of film would be produced by following those rules. Yeah. The film called to mind recent video games such as Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Have you played those games? And if so, what did you enjoy more, playing the killer or the victim? Chris said, I've heard that many times since the movie came out, but although I was aware of the game, I'm not a gamer myself. I stopped playing games around the time of Nintendo 64 because I couldn't wrap my head around the controllers. I mean, 2 joysticks on 1 controller, what the fuck are you trying to pull? That said, my fiancée got me playing Tears of the Kingdom earlier this year, the first new game I've played in over 20 years, and I got totally absorbed in it. With regards to your original question, as I stated earlier, I was inspired by Gus Van Sant's films more than any other type of media. However, since releasing the film, I've learnt that Van Sant was actually inspired to make Jerry after watching someone play Tomb Raider. So maybe in a roundabout way, I was inspired by video games.
I like his answers.
So now that it's finished and out there, is there anything you would change with the film? And will that be addressed in the sequel? He says, nope, the film's perfect. Ask my mum, she'll tell you. Actually, she didn't like the credit music. And she didn't understand the last scene in the truck. She also said it could probably be shorter. And that Johnny looks a little bit too dry in some of the shots.
Too dry?
Too dry. He goes, but in all seriousness, if I was to do the film over again, I would change the way I approached directing the non-monster actors. We made the film to answer the question, what would an 80s slasher look like from the slasher's perspective? And, in doing so, I really wanted to be accurate to 80s slashers in the character performances. I wrote their dialogue to border on unrealistic and camp. And I directed the actors likewise in order to mimic the kind of broad characterization of similar characters from the era. I thought everyone would understand this approach, but it was ultimately unsuccessful because only a scant few realised what I was doing. I feel like directors have a responsibility to protect their actors in some way. They are there to share their art and talent with you, and they trust you to sculpt their performance into something that can be understood by everyone. So to hear people criticise the actors for performing exactly as I wanted or intended leaves me unsettled. They're all fantastic actors and performers, and if I were to change anything about the film, I would rewrite their dialogue and direct them towards realism rather than pastiche.
Interesting.
I feel like I got what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, who's the jock, who's the nerd.
Yeah.
You know,
That's very clear, I thought.
Yeah.
beware of that vintage, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
So I put here, speaking of sequels, was a sequel always planned? He said, no, we'd always envisioned the film as being a standalone experiment. But when we got asked about the potential for a sequel, it got my partners and I thinking, and we realised there were angles we could take to expand on our initial concept that genuinely excited us. I said, well, it was interesting because to read in your interview with Fangoria, you treated the film like a 3rd or 4th instalment of a series, which is we're going back to what we were talking about with why was the locket where it was. So I said, yeah, you treated the film like a 3rd or 4th instalment of a series. Does that mean we may see a prequel or an origin story at some point? And he said, no, I'd be happy never doing an origin story. I have a genuine disdain for recent horror films that try and set themselves in the 70s and 80s. And then finally, as we watch a film 3 times for the podcast, what do you think people may miss when they first watch the film? On the first viewing, I think people might miss on how much in the background the movie plays into what we see on screen. For example, how the ranger smashing on the car horn at the start of the movie trickles down to Johnny using the car horn to distract Troy as he walks around the cabin. Or that the photo in the ranger station is supposed to be all the ranger's friends who were killed in the previous film. But the movie is more of a sensory experience than anything else, so I don't mind if people miss things.
I feel validated that he called it an experiment. I think I said as much in episode 1. But yeah, I also think, with regards to the idea of a sequel, you just couldn't do it. I really do think this is like a one and done movie. Like no one else could.
Well, I had an idea
make
about
a movie
the
like
sequel.
this.
Well, the sequel's coming.
But
Yeah.
what?
Well, I had this idea because with the lady at the end, I wonder if she could be the gateway into the sequel. Maybe she is connected to Johnny.
But what
in
does
some
it look
way.
like? Are you following her around? Are you
don't
still
know.
following
I don't
Johnny
know.
around? You said last episode as well, Mark, that maybe this is like a way forward, a new harboring or a new direction for slashers. I don't think you could. I don't think it's something people want to see a lot of. I think it was an idea that was there for the taking, and these guys took it, and now it's done. You can't really do it again.
I think it's one of those classic golden goose type situations, like they did with Blair Witch, where they went, Blair Witch was surprisingly successful, let's do something. And the sequel just really didn't work. And so maybe that's the case. Look, obviously time will tell. I mean, they announced the sequel, I think, about a year ago. So we'll have to wait and see where that goes. I mean, Johnny is really the only character that's probably going to carry forward, I suppose, like you would in Friday the 13th or something. You'd have a bunch of new campers. I thought it was interesting that they were saying that they sort of designed it to be like halfway through a story arc kind of thing. Like this is not Johnny's first rodeo. He's been resurrected before and maybe put to bed again sort of thing. So
Yeah, exactly.
It was also interesting how he said he's got a disdain for horror movies that are set in the 70s and 80s that are made now. And it's like, I don't know if I'd given it much thought. I almost kind of assumed that it sort of maybe was the 80s, I guess. But is there anything in this movie to suggest that it's now? Does anyone have a mobile phone or anything?
Yeah.
Is there any internet or anything?
Yeah, they take selfies and stuff like that.
Do they?
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a bit of
I guess the way they speak seemed very now.
Yeah. So I guess last time, Adam, what did you give this film? What did we even give it out of? What were
did we rate it?
Was it The Mask?
No, we
Was it
rated
The
it
Fireman?
Lockets.
Was
I think it might have been the Lockets.
Yeah. And I think I gave it 7 Lockets.
6, I think you were last time around.
6 Lockets. I'm going to be a little more generous this time. Yeah. I'm going to give it 7 Lockets. I like its bold swing. It's trying something new. It's been done, and they did it well. I still like some of the kills in it. It makes me laugh, this movie. I enjoy I didn't really notice when I first watched it, the lack of music in it. And I paid attention to that this time because Mark mentioned it in the first episode that there's no music in it. And I think that's quite effective. Yeah, I liked it. I like it for its ambition. 7 Lockets.
What will you be looking for next time?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I guess I'm going to look for, I don't know, an into more.
I beg your pardon?
Like in what way could there be more of this idea of Johnny and following him around? And
Okay.
what that looks like, I guess. Yeah.
Very good. And you, Mark?
I'm happy to sit with my 7 that I gave it last time around. I think it's a really good horror film. I actually really quite like it. Before we sort of wrap it all up, we had another interview.
Yeah, I was going to circle back
We
to
did.
that.
So, just tagging in from what Adam was saying about some of the great kills, the most memorable kill, and it's almost the, I think it's been described in different places as it's the kill that makes you say, hey, you got to see this movie because this thing happens.
Yeah.
The set piece sort of movie. Yeah.
So, of course, we're referring to what some people call the yoga scene, which is the scene where Aurora gets herself folded in half and ends up having her head pulled through her body. As my sister lovely calls her, the pretzel girl.
Pretzel Girl.
So we were able to speak to the pretzel girl, which is a lovely lass called Charlotte Creaghan. And she was kind enough to take some time out of her current roles to answer some questions for us as well.
Thank you, Charlotte Creaghan. That's awesome.
Yes, thank you, Charlotte. So we asked her, first of all, so how did you score the role for Aurora, and did you read for any other parts? So she said she read for both Chris and Aurora in her initial self-tape that she did. And then after she did that self-tape audition, she got a call back and found out they'd given her the part of Aurora, so it was a pretty quick thing for her, which is good. So the film's focus is on Johnny, so we don't get the usual level of exposition that we might normally get on the victims. Did you come up with a history for Aurora? We see from your online bio that you enjoy yoga. Was that something you added to her character? She said, well, I came up with some of my own history for Aurora, but the yoga was in the script from the beginning. I think it was important for her to be doing yoga so that Johnny had more of a reason to kill her the way he did. She finally finds her zen.
She does.
She certainly gets a good stretch.
Absolutely.
And a new perspective.
Oh,
you mentioned The Ring in a couple of interviews as a film that made an impression on you when you were younger. Is that your favourite horror film? What have you seen lately that you really liked? She said, well, The Ring was the first movie that I remember feeling truly terrified by. That feeling and the imagery of it has stuck with me ever since. The long black damp hair, the white gown, the well. It was both pretty and disgusting. I didn't watch a single horror movie after that until I graduated high school. But now that I watch them again, I find myself drawn to the imagery that drew me into The Ring. The feminine, sometimes delicate facade that explodes. Possession from 1981 and The Lure from 2015 are my favourites. I could go on and on about what I loved about those movies, but when it comes down to it, they just made me feel free. You have said it took 2 days and 3 body casts to complete your death scene. How did you find the process? What do you think of the final result? Would you do it again? Charlotte says, I was surprised at how much I loved the process of getting the body cast. It took 8 hours, but it kind of felt like being at the spa. I just sat there while other people covered me in warm goo. I was warned that getting the head done can be claustrophobic and anxiety-inducing, which it was at first, but then I noticed how much it felt like being underwater and I felt at peace. While we were filming the death scene, I kept trying to remind myself to stay present because I wanted to remember everything. Getting to pretend to die like that is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I felt weirdly calm watching that scene on the big screen. There's something satisfying about seeing my physical form get destroyed like that and being okay on the other side of the screen. I'm not sure what that says about me, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Were you surprised by the film's reception at Sundance? What are some of your memories of the festival? And I was surprised at how communal the experience of watching the film at Sundance felt. People were really hooting and hollering in the theatre. I've never experienced anything like that before. The horror community is so warm and I loved getting to talk to some of the people who watched the movie after the screenings. I said, did you get to keep the Fangoria Chainsaw Award for Best Kill? She said, I believe Chris Nash kept it, and rightly so. He came up with a scene. How he came up with that scene, I will never know. And we did ask if she had any projects that we could tell you, our listeners, about. She said she has just wrapped a project that she's super excited about. However, she's not at liberty to tell us about it. But, keep an eye out. So Charlotte Creaghan will be coming up with some new things, so keep an eye on her.
Oh, I thought we had the scoop.
I thought so too, but no scoop to be had.
That's okay.
But yes, thank you again, Charlotte. That was really, really kind of you to join in our podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Chris as well. So it's, just shows you everyone wants to be involved with Thrice.
Yes, we appreciate anyone that donates any of their time to answer any of our questions. It's awesome.
Yes.
So Trace, I think your turn to let us know how many golden lockets.
Yes. Well, last time I gave 2 golden lockets.
Sorry, how many was that?
That was 2.
That's out of 5, right?
Out of 10.
Out of 10?
You asked the same
okay.
question last time.
Yeah.
2 golden lockets.
Whoosh.
And I think really after watching it again and putting some more time and thought into it all, and I think also, sort of getting a little bit more detail from the director in particular, I'm going to award another point.
A whole locket?
A whole locket. So we're now putting it up to 3 lockets because, I
That's very Christian of your, Trace.
I appreciate the fact that it's trying to do something different.
But you've got it ranked slightly above the Snow White remake is what you're saying.
So no, I do. I appreciate the fact they are trying to do something different and that, credit where credit's due. He wants it to be slow and ponderous and he wanted it to be even longer and slower and more ponderous. So
we're watching that cut.
So for that, you've got to give credit for sticking to your guns. So,
but not a lot of credit apparently.
I think it's generous.
You've gone up by 50%, I suppose.
Yeah. So,
and what are you going to look at for next time? What's going to get it to 4 lockets for you?
I think I will pay a little bit more attention to the teens. I don't know if it was Charlotte or if it was Chris who said I think it was Charlotte, not as much attention was paid to their characters, which is very true. But I think also I think also they're not very likable characters, and I appreciate who's who in the zoo and all of that kind of jazz. That's very clear. But, often you can have just that surface level and still engage with them a lot more and still feel like, oh, no, it's the cuddly, dorky guy. Or I didn't feel that here. But that said, because there's a point where I think it's the cuddly dorky guy. He's going to go. He wants quiet time in the woods. I don't
Fill
know
us
why.
up, Brad.
And
Is Brad?
I can't remember.
Brad?
And they're saying, he's going back to the gas station to see the girls. I might have missed where they were at the gas station.
We didn't see it. You don't need.
Well, there you go. Because I was like, what gas station? What episode meant to
But
see?
we know what's cool about that? You don't need to see it because you've seen 100 slasher movies and you know
Well-
that there was a creepy guy at the gas station who told him, don't go into those woods. And there might have been, you know that there was some hot girls at the gas station.
doomed.
Yes. But that aside, Adam,
Hmm.
I was like, did I miss that? Was I still in a comatose state from watching people walk around? So, and now I don't need to watch it again because you've just set me straight.
Yeah. Well, unless Johnny went to the servo, then
Johnny might have gone to the survey. But even
then
this,
we don't go to the
you know,
survey.
so I'm sure there'll be something else to find. Over to you, Mark. What do you rate it?
I already did.
Oh, you already
my
gave it
rating.
right.
But what rating did you
You
give?
gave it 7 again.
Oh, okay.
One quick question, real quick. In recent times, we've done this movie and we've done The Watchers. Which of these movies does The Woods better?
The Watchers.
Mark?
This one.
Yeah.
There's actually
Hey.
there's actually a quote I read in the Fangoria. I think it was in the Fangoria interview I read with Chris, and about the play on the name, because obviously the way Johnny acts is in a violent nature, but then also, as it said, nature in itself is a very violent place to be, and I think that they do paint the woods as being very large and very and very
Unknowable.
risky and deadly.
Yeah.
Unknowable. It very much is that element. So I think they do it well. I think it's
I don't agree. I'd find the other woods a lot more scary.
I don't know. I just wanted to put that to you guys.
no. Well, I think it's an interesting thing to think about. For next time, I'm not too sure. I mean, the kills are great. You certainly watch them. It might be what Chris has talked about. There are some little things he's tried to connect some dots in the background, so it might be a little bit more, maybe playing the pause game a little bit more to see what things can be connected in there.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously it's... I wouldn't want to diminish the film by saying it's gimmicky, but obviously on the surface, if it was played out as a traditional slasher film, it would be quite a derivative slasher film. So it would just feel like another Friday the 13th wannabe
Yeah.
But obviously... So look, it'd be interesting to see, are there some Easter eggs, I suppose, if you want to call them that, some things hidden around.
Yeah. We shall see.
Well, with that,
Yes, well, with that, if you're interested to hear...
If you want to follow us, like we follow Johnny.
Yes.
into the woods, around the woods, walk with
Slowly.
us.
Slowly and at our leisure. And at our pace. At our pace, because this is our place. I digress. If you'd like to follow us, we'd be really appreciative.
Give us a rate,
And-
give us a review.
Indeed. And share this with other people who you think might find this fun,
Sharing is
interesting, or even
caring.
just slightly odd.
Yeah.
So, and also please head on over to Facebook, where you can follow us at Sinister Siblings and hear about everything that's coming up.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Well, with that,
Let's head off into the woods.
that's goodbye for me.
Goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.